Okay, Kory's shaking his head right now. You go, Kory, and I'll get Scott right after.
Our friend Kory is, yanking his lovely white hair out at the roots to put some meat into this sandwich to clear up the lack of clarity that Kory's talking about and to remove the ambiguity that exists.
Let him finish.
I love it. Scotty boy is here to simp for Carney again and attack Danielle Smith because, I don't know, I guess because it bothers him that she's 10 times tougher than Scott Reid and David Cockring playing tug of war with Mark Carney's underwear with their teeth. There's not much more to be said about this fool that hasn't already been said by all of us. So check out this unintelligent political analysis of Mark Carney's super duper macho tough guy narrative because it's truly embarrassing. Hit that like button down below. Each like is one more tear from a liberal's eye.
What really stuck out to me from the Prime Minister's comments today was kind of how different they were from the federal energy minister the day before, who testified before the Senate and was very much like, this ain't my problem. Alberta's got to convince BC to get on board. The Prime Minister didn't do any of that deflecting and really, to me, did not rule out the possibility of this happening. Why do you think that is?
Because I think he's playing it smart. I think, by saying that he remains open to the pipeline proposal, by saying that he even remains open to the possibility, depending upon circumstances, that he might move on the tanker ban. I think he is trying to carefully manage what has been brought forward as clearly a provocation, not just a proposal, but a provocation by Danielle Smith. I mean, she's literally just pulled the pin on this grenade, thrown it over, tried to land it in Carney's lap. And I think by taking the position he has, Prime Minister is very carefully putting the pin back into the grenade and handing it over to Alberta again and saying, here, Danielle Smith, I think you may have dropped this. I think it's smart. Ultimately, this thing is going to come to a head. There will or will not be a proposal. There will or will not be consideration of all the policies surrounding it. But it's smart for the Prime Minister to not close the door, because he then robs Danielle Smith of the ability to say, my God, this is an affront to Alberta, and evidence, therefore, that Canada just does not exist. After 158 years, I think we can say safely that Canada exists, that Canada works. And I see the Prime Minister refusing to take the bait. I think that's smart.
Do you think that's what's happening, Kory?
No, I don't. I think this is watching the Liberal Party federally tear itself apart a little bit over these issues. To listen to Carney during the election campaign, pipelines were very much on the table, and I think you heard a bit of that in his press conference. But you got to cross balance that with parts of the former Trudeau government that still exist, including within his cabinet, and new additions like Gregor Robertson, someone who's from the far left of the BC NDP traditionally, who are vehemently anti-pipeline. Stephen Guilbeault is one of the biggest and longest-standing environmental radicals in this country. These guys are part of the Trudeau team and that ethos that are diametrically opposed to this stuff. Carney is more like Harper, frankly, in terms of some of the policies and paths he's been pursuing. And what you're seeing play out in real time is the contradiction between those two sides of the Liberal Party, the Liberal Party of Trudeau versus the Liberal Party of Carney. And I'm increasingly thinking it's irreconcilable without one part of that party being exited at the back.
What Carney is doing out here is actually really smart. He's getting out from under the old intellectual cul-de-sac that we've been driven into around pipeline debates. And he's actually reflecting a new Liberal approach to this, but also a new BC NDP approach to this. This is not the BC NDP of 10 years ago. Mr. Carney's actually been really smart here. He has tried to elevate this conversation so that it doesn't drive into the same old dead-end corners that it used to. The fact is, for a West Coast pipeline, you could repeal all the environmental laws you want. You can pass an act of parliament that declares climate change a hoax and make it legal to dump mercury in the river. You will still have Section 35 of the Constitution in your way, and both the Indigenous self-government organizations along the pipeline route, but also at the terminus, have been pretty clear on a North Coast line. But what Carney is trying to do is elevate this beyond the old arguments. And I think for his purposes right now, it is a better answer than what Hodgson gave, and I think allows the private sector to understand what the rules of the road are now.
Okay, Kory's shaking his head right now. You go, Kory, and I'll get Scott right after.
Well, it's as clear as mud what's going on, right? So it depends who you're listening to on what day. Like the political minister for British Columbia for this government was on the hurly-burly not a week ago saying with no more pipelines. We've had other members of the cabinet say no more pipelines. You have, reports of assurances that tanker bans will be lifted and that the caps will be lifted, coming from Carney to various premiers. And then, ambiguity in the press conference that you just heard. They're doing this dance of the seven veils here around this stuff. And if you're trying to say at the same time that you want to attract private capital and private sector proponents for this, well, just shoveling more and more ambiguity on what the regulatory framework are and what the rules that those will be operated in, it almost makes you feel like you're killing the projects before they can even come forward. Like, who is going to propose a new pipeline to the West Coast without assurances that the tanker ban will be lifted? No one is the answer. Nobody. And so, they've got to get clear about this. And I'll come back to what I said earlier. I think the lack of clarity isn't that Mark Carney doesn't understand that markets need certainty in order to make investments. I think it's that he also understands that his caucus and his cabinet are very divided on these issues and that those need to be reconciled. You've seen some, former cabinet ministers sort of shunted out the door to diplomatic posts. There's rumors of more of that coming down the pipe. Maybe they're waiting for that before, giving clarity on this because it is so divisive within the ranks. But, clarity needs to come. And this, for it, against it, depending on who you're talking to, that's not helping. It's not helping.
Scott's also shaking his head. My favorite kind of panel where everybody's just shaking their head.
I'm shaking my head because our friend Kory is, yanking his lovely white hair out at the roots. And how come? You're talking about there's a need for clarity. This whole discussion is littered with ambiguity. The ambiguity originates from a premier who's put forward a proposal that is not a proposal. Where is the financial banking? Where is the private sector proponent? Where is the effort to conjure up some kind of consensus among the communities that might be affected, among Indigenous leaders and communities that might be affected? None of those steps have been taken, not one stitch. All we have is a proposal that says, this is our idea. Either support it or it's evidence that Canada doesn't work. Do it, do this pipeline, or Canada gets it in the throat. Like, that is where the ambiguity is originating. Carney is being smart, calm. He's not worried a damn about divisions within his caucus or cabinet. This guy is large and in charge. If he says we're doing it, the tanker ban is being lifted, there won't be a pipe out of his caucus or cabinet. So that's not the issue. The issue is, why would he accept responsibility for this project? Why would he take on this proposal when it meets none of the conditions, has none of the details that you would expect that he has demanded of these major projects, and then say, and yes, I will pre-approve a whole series of things on the basis of a proposal that hasn't been made. He is wisely placing the pressure back on the premier to put some meat into this sandwich to clear up the lack of clarity that Kory's talking about, and to remove the ambiguity that exists.
Let him finish and Shannon go for it. I'll get you back, Kory. Go ahead.
Well, this notion that Scott is talking about, we need to see a proposal before anyone can evaluate it. Maybe he needs to send a memo, the Prime Minister, to his ministers who have had no problem saying that we don't need another pipeline. In the case of Gregor Robertson, who's only the political minister for this government in BC. So, he didn't need to see a proposal to say that there doesn't need to be a pipeline. Same for Stephen Guilbeault. So there are elements of this government that aren't waiting for a proposal to crap all over the idea of additional pipelines. They're happy to stick to what was essentially the Justin Trudeau line. This isn't the Justin Trudeau government, in my view. But I'm not sure all of the members of that caucus and that cabinet have realized that that's the case. I think there's some of them that are stuck in the past.
I thought you wanted Scott to write that memo. Okay, I got to leave it there.
Scott, maybe you should too.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the discussion.
You might not like it.
Oh my God, Scott. The secondhand embarrassment I'm feeling right now is legitimately uncomfortable. Look at him shaking his head.
Scott, right after.
Of course he is. He just can't deal with any opposing opinion whatsoever. When Scott joins a CTV panel, he believes it's under the premise that it's going to be a liberal circle jerk. Scott, Scott, if you're so confident that Mark Carney is doing such a wonderful job for Canada, then you wouldn't feel the need to get so triggered about Mark Carney's horrible job thus far. If Carney was so amazing, then his work would just speak for itself. Scott's up there like, nobody says mean things about my PM, he's my boo. Mainstream media is running out of platitudes for Mark Carney, and the facade is very clearly beginning to crack at the seams. I just hope that we all get to witness the eventual meltdown of Scott Reid, where he flips the hell out and starts throwing shit all around his office. And I'm not letting you off the hook either, Kory, because you're a complete tool as well. Just be thankful that Scotty Boy is a bigger loser than you are. For now.